We're doing WHAQ in the same room, which is wild, right? At least it's wild to us. I don't know about the rest of you.
How is everyone? Happy Monday. Wild indeed. Hopefully chat is half working.
Also, can we, just, what's the word I'm looking for? Deconstruct, maybe? The fact that this is the last Monday in February and March starts this week?
No. I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, fair. And, it also means that, as of Wednesday, I move next month. I move 7 weeks from today. Wild. I just feel like I spend all my time angering Monty by talking about how fast time passes, how old we are, and how burnt out we are. That's our whole relationship is just talking about the exhaustion.
Oh, Torn, thank you. And thank you for the luck. I know you've got important stuff to do.
Good luck on the application.
Yeah, good luck.
And the one thing I will say is that we are showing a really special 2-minute video. I actually don't know how long it is.
I think it's 2.5.
2.5 minute video that might also make you emotional today, but other than that, it's a pretty easy breezy episode, a bit more of a light one.
Yeah, I handle the light topics.
Yeah, I was thinking of doing compet in 2 weeks. Yeah. You comfy?
You're too smart.
I'm not that smart.
Yeah, I'm comfy enough.
Okay.
Should we just get straight into it?
Yeah, I'm good to go when you are. Did we want to start the episode, or did we want to where are we showing the video?
Thanks, Monty. Now, if you want.
Yeah, whenever.
Yeah? Okay, so we didn't stream 2 weeks ago for a relatively important reason.
Yeah, I mean, I had a nervous breakdown, which was part of it. But, so basically, what happened is that we moved our streaming schedule because we knew that I was going to do, my biometrics, and Liz was traveling and all of that stuff, so we moved it, and we're like, that's great. Now we're set to go. And then Home Office had other ideas. And so what happened last Monday is that we were waiting for my passport to arrive. And so, as you'll hear in a little bit, when the UK, when you apply for your visa, they take your passport and keep it. And then one day it arrives in the mail, or through courier, actually, and you get your visa or not. And the tracking number had activated on my visa 21 weeks early. So, and then it was out for delivery as of 6:30 in the morning or something. Now we've been on GMT time, so we get up at 3 a.m. between 3 and 4.
Yep.
And we just kept waiting. And I knew that if we didn't have it, so we stream WHAQ at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and I knew if we didn't have it by 1 p.m., I couldn't go live.
Well, I couldn't. Noon.
Yeah,
noon
because I wanted to have enough time to actually properly cancel, postpone, whatever you want to call it. And as of 1 o'clock, there was nothing, and I think at the end of it, it was 1:31 or something that we got a delivery, and I couldn't do WHAQ waiting because the last time it was being delivered by UPS, I think UPS, one of the couriers, but whatever courier it was, I checked, and the last time I got a package from them, it was at 3 o'clock, and we start WHAQ at 2 o'clock, and I was just I cannot have them arrive in the middle, and we'd been waiting, and so we just called it. Yeah. But we did record.
We did. I'm just going to see if I can fix this real quick.
Just do what you need to do.
Really annoying.
Look at you adjusting things on the fly.
As if that isn't my MO. Yeah, that's not... Do you know what? I don't know why it doesn't work. It works fine on my stream, and it doesn't want to work here.
Pretty soon we're just going to have your setup. This computer is not coming with me when I move in 7 weeks.
It doesn't bloody work on my setup anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, good to know.
There we go. That's at least we can see the entirety of chat. So yeah, we've got a little video to show you, which is going to cover the chat box anyway.
Yep.
So strap in. Let me just cough. Get ready, because it's a little bit emotional.
I actually might cry watching it.
Are you ready? Are we ready, folks?
I'm not ready, but I'm ready. Yeah, it's UPS. Look, there's the label.
Okay, we're recording. Okay, are you gonna say what's going on?
So let us know. Hang on. Before we get into it, can we hear the video? Does anything need changing?
Joy of getting a visa from the UK is that they don't tell you.
You can hear the breathing.
Great.
Okay, we're recording. Okay, are you gonna say what's going on? So, the joy of getting a visa from the UK is that they don't tell you if you're successful or not. They send you back your passport after you relinquish it for the whole time. And if you're successful, it has your visa stuck in it, which we've been calling the magic sticker.
Magic sticker.
And if you're not successful, there's no sticker. And you don't know until you get it. So we're going to open it. And, secondary envelope.
What a day.
This is cruel. And there's my Canadian passport. And there it is.
Don't, you've just done your makeup.
Effective now. I can leave now if I want to. Oh my god. Oh my god. So,
Let's go.
I'm gonna cover up some of this. You can see there's my visa.
Oh my god. Thank god.
There it is.
I get packing now.
There's our permission to get married right on it. Oh, you did it. And never in a million years did we think we'd get it. You were here. We were supposed to get it in May.
Oh my god.
Okay. All right, time to
Bye.
make some plans.
Get packing.
Yeah. You need tissue?
Oh.
I have tissue.
No, that's what sleeps are for.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was, and like, as you may have seen in the video, one of like the cruelest parts in some ways is that they put it in a random page. So it's not even like open your passport and like first page, there it is. So even though we knew that like, here's the reality. I checked and triple checked and quadruple checked and checked all of the stuff. We exceeded the minimum requirements for it. Like we knew everything was in our favor, but like there's always the chance, like there's still some people who, like I did my fingerprints in January. There's literally still people waiting from June because it's just a system that doesn't necessarily have like so to this day, and I check the visa forms every day still, I am the fastest through from fingerprints to passport since Brexit. And so I knew that we had done it well and all of that stuff, but like the whole thing just makes you so anxious that you haven't done it well. And then because they don't put it in the first page, you like flip and flip and flip, and you saw it there, like flip, 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 flip. No, Ton, they actually don't tell you anything.
Nope.
And they don't even give you like a decision letter. Like you just get your passport and that's that. And like, that's how you track the UPS shipping number. And I saw that it went live.
Sometimes get an email if you've been refused.
Yes.
Which is ridiculous.
So I kept checking and looking for the refusal. But honestly, they just like, anyway. And so like my passport's pretty new. It's from like 2018. And of course, no one went anywhere for a few years. And most of the places I go, I don't get visas and I don't get stamps. Like even twice I went to the UK, I didn't get stamped. I only have one stamp in my passport. So it means it's almost entirely empty, the 40 pages. So, but they don't put it in on the first page. They put it in like randomly. So mine's on page like 11 or something. So I'm like flip, 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 flip. Sometimes they put it on the last page. Like, so like 2 envelopes flipping through, like we knew we had it. And yet when you're flipping and you just see empty pages, all you can think is like,
oh shit.
Like, where's the sticker?
And hey, Flinksy, and thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt Gem. Also, ignore this. I just forgot to add something, so just...
Oh. Okay.
Ignore.
So yeah, so it's like, the whole system, like, and I laugh, but not laugh, but like, laugh with people about how it's just not meant, but like how it just makes you feel like, I use this term intentionally, like crazy. And I was like, I give a lot of advice in the visa forms right now because I'm trying to pay people, like I'm trying to pay it forward, right? And I am taking a break from the visa forms as of this week. But just last week, someone was like, I'm divorced and I'm really worried that I won't be able to get a spousal visa because, not with the previous, but like they've remarried, because they're going to be like, oh, you had a relationship and it fell apart, like you got a divorce, so we don't believe that this one will last or something. And I was just like, no, like that's not the case. They're not checking you for suitability, anything like that. And he was just like, yeah, you know, like I understand now. Because I was like, you know what? They're not checking whether you're going to acclimate. They just don't want you to use tax dollars. And they want to believe that it's not like an immigration fraud relationship. Like that's what they're checking, right? But it makes people feel like he's literally freaking out as though no one who's been divorced has gotten a visa. Like, which is a wild idea, right? Like tons and tons of divorced people get visas. But like, even then he was like, you know, it's just, I get you now. Like, it's just making me so anxious, da da da. And I was like, no, this whole process is meant to make you feel like just nuts.
Like, like it's impossible, so you don't bother trying.
Yeah. Thanks, Dex.
It's cruel. It's cruel.
It is. And so like, and then he was like, oh, I feel so silly now. Like, of course, divorced people get visas. And I was like, no, but like, yeah, okay. Like, obviously that's true. But like, you're just anxious like the rest of us, right? Like, we all find a million things. Like, I'm also divorced and I had to like send along divorce paperwork, and I didn't do a divorce certificate, I did a divorce decree, because what they require in the UK is something called a decree absolute. That doesn't exist in North America. So I was like guessing as to what the actual equivalent was, and so you know it's okay. I knew that the paperwork I sent was like the stuff that was literally filed by the court and was certified. It was a certified copy of the court document. You can't get any more official than that. And I still lost sleep over it, being like, what if I sent the wrong one? Like, so yeah. So I just feel it. And like when you're flipping through those pages, my goodness.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I promise you'll be done in a second. I just want to fix one more thing. Just because it's a queer talk show, and I think it's very important that if we're going to have chat on screen, then we display pronouns as well. And I forgot to I just forgot to set that bit up.
Yeah, so you work on that, and I'm just going to keep chatting, and then we'll start the topic. Today's topic is really, like, fun, and I won't say cute. It's not just cute, though. Like, it's interesting, so it's about, like, queer, like, things queer people are called, or, like, nicknames for queerness and code words and stuff. So it's a really cool topic, and we'll get into it, but it's Liz's topic, so I don't want to, like, steal it from her.
Yeah, sorry. I'll be...
No, you do your thing. I'm just going to chit-chat a little bit.
With you as soon as I... can.
And, like, on top of that, like, I had a little bit of a breakdown today because I'm moving in 7 weeks. I'm giving away everything I own. Planning a wedding. Although now, like, oh my goodness, we actually get to plan a wedding, friends. Like, we actually just get to, like, there's no more ifs. Which is amazing. And so we've, like, met with our celebrant and stuff. But we also have a cat that's, like, gonna give birth. Like, I think we're really close. Like, I think it might be tonight.
Literally any moment.
There's a lot of body changes happening and personality changes happening. So, there's just been a lot of stress lately, and I'm trying to just be gentle with myself around it because that. Hi, JD.
Hey, JD. I don't know
Lovely
why
to
it's
see
not
you.
working, which upsets me a lot. But...
Do we let it go?
yeah, I guess we let it go.
We can always refresh at a break if we take a break or anything.
Yeah, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's very important to me. I don't know if that's in line with TOS, Flinksy. Maybe we could. So, shall we get into it? I need to do another big cough. Okay.
They do show it on, like, YouTube and stuff. Like, I've watched, there's a few, like, tiny, like, Kitten HQ or something it's called. And way before I was, like, fostering kittens, there was, like, you know, mums that would give birth on YouTube and stuff. So there's definitely stuff out there. But, like, I don't think you want to watch it.
I mean, I don't want to watch it, and I'm going to be in the same room, so...
Sorry, friends.
Okay, let's get to it, I guess. Okay. So. Oh, no, Scaff. No. Gem is, just a foster parent.
I will be bringing 0 kittens with me when I move, even though...
Gary.
Hi, Gary. Even though, like, there's a part of me that's, like, in love with these kittens, and for real, I could be in the UK right now. I planned my move date around the kittens being old enough that we can move them to a new home without any disruption. So it's still 7 weeks from now, so she should give birth within the next week. They'll be 6 weeks old, which is a decent enough moving time. I literally am delaying moving for this damn cat and her kittens.
Yep, just looking round. Right. So, welcome to WHAQ, a talk show centered around the beauty of queerness and the challenges it brings, with hosts Pansexual Princess, at Get Lizzie With It, she, her, and the Suffolk sensation, Games Mistress, also she, her. That's your cue.
Can I read it?
Now you say that I had a query.
Oh. So today Liz had a query. That's exciting. Are you going to tell us what your query was?
Yeah, so, I don't know if anyone will remember this. I don't know if it made it across the pond. But last summer, Norwich City Football Club recorded a slightly strange video for Pride Month. And it was an anti-homophobia campaign that they did. And basically what they did was, they got a wall and they painted it and they covered it in slurs. They covered it in homophobic slurs, and the idea was that they were going to get paintballs and throw it at the wall to cover up the slurs. 1, to make it all gay and rainbow, and 2, because there's, they want to erase homophobia, which also is a terrible metaphor because they were just covering up the slurs.
It was bad on so many levels.
It was terrible. I mean, it generated some good memes, but otherwise it was terrible.
Because what went out on social media was like a picture of it, wasn't it? Like without the paint.
I think so, yeah.
Because I remember
it was the before, not the after.
It was because I just remember talking about it, and it was just this like picture of a wall with slurs on it for Pride Month.
Which is ridiculous.
And one of the slurs was twink.
Amazing. Yeah, I do remember that. So, they did this big video about it, and these slurs were visible for 95% of the video. So, you know, for all this, these are bad words that you should not say. They were shown in the video. That's true, Torn. So Torn says, the way the gays talk about twinks, you think it would be a slur. But, yeah, it caused a big reaction, and
rightfully so.
Yeah, literally stole the words from my mouth. In the end, the football club did apologise, and the video was removed. But yeah, ever since seeing that video last summer, I was like, there's some interesting names on there that I don't know the origin of, and that I was curious about. So I decided I wanted to do a little bit of research. Mm-hmm. I wanted to know if anyone in chat knew them, what you had to say about them, whether you think... I don't want to say whether you think they're acceptable. Maybe whether they could be reclaimed,
or
perhaps?
Even have been reclaimed.
Yeah,
maybe?
Or do you feel that they have been reclaimed? I did write a command earlier. Let me see if it works. But it was just, I was meant to put it in the stream title and I forgot. But it was just to remind people that, you know, chat participation is welcomed and heavily encouraged. So please join in the conversation. But yeah, so the first one that really sort of piqued my interest was one that was used pretty prominently, which was Sea Queen. And I know that we had a conversation about it. Was it in a group chat or was it just us?
I know that at one point Ben's Discord talked about stuff, but I think we more focused on the twink one, so I don't remember talking about.
Yes, Sea Queen. SEA Queen. A queen of the sea. And I stabbed a guess at it. I feel like I was close. I assumed it was something to do with men at sea, or even seamen. Like a Navy type sex guy, right? So you've pretty much like nailed it there.
When I was trying to remember Sea Queen, because like the brain tumor, sometimes words get lost, all I could think of was seaman, and not like seaman, but then I was like, is it seaman? Wait, was that what the word was? Was it actually just seaman?
Man of sea. Yeah. So Sea Queens were gay men who worked abroad, mainly on merchant vessels, and that's how, back in my pirate days, I was a Sea Queen. Well, there we go. And the Sea Queens were predominantly effeminate men that worked away, but they weren't like the men who were doing the macho jobs. They were the ones who were like often waiters on cruise ships. They were often entertainers, and they became wives. You can't see my hand. Wives for other men who were on the ships. And they became sort of companions. And
like, it's an interesting gender dichotomy there, right? Around like butch and femme, or however you want to, describe it, masc and femme, or flamboyant, etc. But like this dichotomy, and that like if you were doing the like entertaining, serving, hosting jobs, you were the queen and the wife and the woman and probably the bottom.
Yeah. And it's sort of what I sort of found interesting, I don't know, might not be the right word, but the husbands were straight men that had sex with other men. And I find that very interesting. Like, I mean, we've spoken about labels and things previously. Well, yeah, exactly that, Moni. Straight men. But we've spoken about labels and things previously, and like, cool. Like, use a label, don't use a label, completely up to you. I just find that funny. Like, interesting.
I think that there's like a difference though, right? Between an individual person choosing what label works for them and a whole segment of society somehow being straight while they fuck other men. Like, are calling themselves straight.
Yeah, that's
like,
it. The individual versus the community.
Exactly. So, like, you know what? You want to call yourself whatever? Cool. But there was somehow this collective delusion that because you were on a boat, fucking other men was straight. Like, I don't... Or, like... And not just delusion, obviously. Yeah. But, like...
But it goes back to, like, that sort of... comp het again, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, you've got to have sex with someone... and you're picking one of the flamboyant ones, so you're the dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so yeah. 10 points to Flinksy for nailing that one.
Mm-hmm.
What? Monty says, I mean, apparently getting Rihanna pregnant with 2 children is gay now. People have really fucked up logic somehow. I have no idea what
I don't know that
to.
reference either. I've been living. And, like, Flinksy, I totally get that, like, circumstantial gay sex is like I get that, but I also deeply believe that if you can become erect in the presence of another man and have sex with that person and ejaculate, etc., like, hands existed, right? Like, you were making a choice.
Hands existed.
Like, for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, there were masturbation options. So, like, I understand, like, getting your rocks off, but, like, you can't not be a little bit queer if you're on a boat of men having sex with other men and you're one of them, right? Like, I just feel like, yeah, I get that. I mean, mouth beats, there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of things being said here. And I do, but, like, I don't know. It can't be any more gay than... or less gay than the one receiving. Anyway, I'm just...
It's saying. Just... I guess it just begs the question, like... Well, yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one, right? But I guess it's inherently queer to have same-gender sexual activities. But yeah, maybe a deeper dive for another time.
The one thing I will say is that I think that in a lot of these cases, when they talk about, like, oh, you know, like, I do think that there was some guys that probably were just, like, doing the thing and they were straight and whatever. But, like, throughout history, if there has been an area, a profession, pardon me, a context in which it is more acceptable to have sex with men, etc., or women have sex with women, etc., queer people are more likely to go there, right? So, like, if you know you're gay and you know that you, like, the stories are...
You're gonna have some kind of safety. Yeah.
I mean... like, I understand that idea, Flinksy, but I think that if we're talking about... So what Flinksy says is if you were in the dark and someone came in and began to perform oral sex on you, does it make you gay or straight to be excited by it? And that's, like... I think that that's decontextualizing it way too much. Because this wasn't just, like, random people. There were, like...
on a boat with people of the same gender.
And there were, like... They weren't having sex with the other masked ones. They were having sex with their wives.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's, like, a very particular context where, like, you can decontextualize it all you want and find, you know, extraneous things. But when you look at a situation in which it's all men and some of them are feminine and some of them are masculine and they're having sex with each other in those paired off couples, bit gay.
Yeah, maybe a little. Just slightly. So yeah, that was, like I said, that was one that featured on the wall pretty prominently. And I was just a bit... I just had literally, like I said, had a guess, but had never heard it used. Like, I'd never, ever heard that phrase before. And then when I was looking it up as well, apparently it featured quite heavily in Polari, which, again, might be another episode topic later down the line. But Polari was basically a thieves' cant for homosexuals and other, again, quotation marks, deviant folk. So people who were queer, who were different, who were outcast for whatever reason, could use that language to identify each other and know when they were safe in the presence of another person. And I did, not for today, but I did do a little bit of reading about that and pulled some Wikipedia articles and bits and pieces on that. That was really interesting. Whole, like, wild, like, full other language, and it came from, like, Cockney rhyming slang and, like, different references. It was a wonderful read, which I wish I could remember a little bit more about, but I feel a little bit on the spot.
Yeah. It's just really cool when, like, secret societies of whatever type develop their own language, right? And, like, I think that it happens in both, like, tiny scales and very large scales. And so, like, tiny scales, like, how many small children have, like, a language with their little best friend or within their kindergarten class or whatever, right? Where they're like, when I say this, it means that. Like, I can just, like, we have, like, a little one in our lives here on this side of the pond. And I can just imagine her saying things like, oh, yeah, like, Jana and I, like, say whatever, and it means this, all the way up to, like, having a whole queer, like, I don't mean fake language. I mean invented language. Yeah, like invented language so that you can talk to people.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So, another phrase or name that was on the wall, which I think I would be very surprised if anyone in chat hadn't heard of it, was dyke. Because women also play football, so they needed to make sure that they were pissing off the women as well. All for the sake of equality during Pride Month. This was an interesting one. There was quite a few theories as to where the word dyke came from, and all were quite different. So the first one I read on the Electric Pride website. Haven't got a clue on that one. Never met one of them. Never used that word before. Never been called that.
I actually have no idea where it came from. I've used it lots. No idea the origin.
So one theory on the origin was the word dyke, as an anti-lesbian slur, suggested that the word dyke actually came from the word hermaphrodite. Yeah.
So, like, hermaphrodite or, like... Yeah, I guess, like, I was, like... Because, like, hermaphrodite comes from many, like, different ideas of, like, multiple intersex sexuality kind of pieces. So is that because we're, like, half dude?
Dude of the woman world, I guess. Yeah, so I was surprised. Like, I really would not have put 2 and 2 together and got there at all. Like, never in a million years. Another theory is that... I say another theory. There was a source that said... that backed up the hermaphrodite theory. And also said that it came from the word baldiker, which means... Do you know what it means?
I think, but go ahead.
No, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, you.
Go ahead.
Which means to engage in lesbian activities. And apparently that was circa 1921.
Oh.
Is that what you would have
Yeah,
said?
it was like... So, basically, like, post-industrial revolution, this is my understanding of it, is, like... Post-industrial revolution, part of the roaring 20s, at least in, like, Western, so, like, thinking North America, parts of Europe, like that, what happened is that following the First World War, into the Roaring Twenties, women moved into the cities and like were living on their own for the first time, really. And they'd done it during the First World War. I won't say because they had to, but basically like they were the ones populating the factories, etc., etc., building things. And so women were off being independent. And really for the first time in our version of Western history in the last like 300, 400 years, it was like an easy way to like go be gay, basically, because you weren't like immediately married off. You could possibly like, you could reasonably take care of yourself outside of your family, outside of your immediate like home, your father, your brothers. And so like women ran off in the 20s to like go do lots of things, to be honest, but like have sex with other women was one of them.
So how does that link into the bull dyker phrase?
Oh, I don't know that in particular, but that I know that like that was when the like upsurgence of like modern-ish, this version of modern-ish lesbian history happened. There was like always stories of like during the 1800s, but it was like really hard because there was so little independence, basically. Like you got married off, you usually didn't even pick your husband half the time.
Yeah, there was no opportunity. And then the last one for this particular word kind of does make sense to me, I guess. So according to the Dictionary of American Slang, a source from 1896 simply just lists dyke as slang for the vulva.
I haven't heard that.
No? Mm-mm. So, there is, like, written text referring to the hedge on the dyke, which refers to female pubic hair. Or pubic hair on a vulva. So dyke referring to, you know, ditches, the watercourse. So yeah, next time you go for a country hike, remember that one. Give me a sec.
I grew up in an area with lots of dykes spelled with an I. And I always think of, like, the interesting, like, crossover between the word dyke and dyke. And I didn't realize that there was actually a crossover, because to me, I was like, dyke means two very different things in my life. Yeah. But maybe not. Maybe they're not so different.
No. All about the grass on the hill.
The grass on the hill.
Grass in the ditch. Anyway. Next time you go for a country hike, be sure to take along your favourite dyke.
I would like to be everyone's favourite dyke, but could we just spare the hiking?
I'll take the picnic halfway through, but not the actual.
I'm down to go out for a picnic. I will barbecue, happily do all of that. This dyke doesn't hike.
I should get that on a t-shirt.
And I won't be, but if I'm ever dating again, like my dating app t-shirt needs to say this dyke doesn't hike, because literally on dating apps, it's all just people pretending to hike.
Walks, yeah.
They all just pretend to hike.
Should we do some WHAQ shirts?
Yes, absolutely. And
this dyke doesn't hike.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bit loud. Just OBS is just shouting at me. So, another prominent phrase on the Pride wall was puff. And you don't say that a lot on this side of the pond at all.
No, this is such a, like, not North American thing. Because to me, I talk about poofs all the time, and they're like poofy things. And also my bath poof, like a loofah, and all of that. Like, that's a poof.
What if you're sat in an armchair and you put your foot on a piece of furniture?
Depending on what it is, it could be a poof.
It could be a poof. Okay. Yeah, so that's the same over here. But in Britain, puff is a well-used, in some circles well-loved, phrase for a gay man. And as Mr. Wibble, hello Mr. Wibble, says as well, puffter. Mm-hmm. Puffter, puff. So the definition of that apparently is an effeminate male homosexual, apparently. Apparently it's of Australian origin. And did I say 1850? So
No.
thought to have been used since 1850, with the extended form puffter is attested from 1910. Now, the bit that really got me about puff and pufters, I hope we don't get banned from Twitch for this episode, all these slurs, is, oh god, it's thought to be onomatopoeic.
For what?
So if
I'm experiencing this with all of you right now, so I don't know what's going to happen.
sorry, I'm gonna go get into that. It's thought to be onomatopoeic. So onomatopoeia is a word that describes the thing it sounds like. Is that how you would define
the word sounds like what it's describing.
The word sounds like what it's describing. Onomatopoeia. Opoeia?
That's the British version.
Oh, that's, yeah. So, for example, an onomatopoeic word would be bang. Or
Growl is actually one as well.
ring. Or, like, ding, a chew, pow, meow. Yeah, thank you, chat.
So this is why I'm like, wait, what is puff sounding like?
So, apparently, it's supposed to sound like a fart from someone who partakes in anal sex.
Oh, then many people are puffs, and it has nothing to do with gender or sexuality. There's a lot of poofing happening.
A lot of puffing. Maybe, some are more of a puffter than others. Everybody does fart, but it was more specifically the sound from a looser asshole, I assume.
What's funny is completely independent of anal sex. I have a gluten intolerance. I'm actually like celiac disease. And I eat it anyway sometimes, but it gives me terrible gas. And I always call them ass yawns, and now that's what I'm going to think of.
What, anal?
Of puff.
Oh.
Of
sorry.
anal.
Sorry.
Yes, gluten. Wheat is going to make me think of butt sex from now on.
And how you can't have it. That is logical. That makes sense. Pistoned, when air was pistoned into the colon. Yeah. Yes, it was thought to be onomatopoeic. Yeah, so they were the they were the prominent words. Pew pew up the bum. I want to
A whole bunch of WHAQ t-shirts happening from here.
I want to see if I can find a picture of the Pride Wall. Here we go. So I'm just going to drop this in chat. No, when I work out where chat is. I do not want a pew pew up the bum shirt, but have at it. Have at it. So
We need pew pew up the bum on the back of a pair of booty shorts. I'm just marketing.
Yeah, like the fake ass Lizzo leggings. Yeah, so there's the wall in chat. If you want to read more about it, it's the Norwich City Football Club, and these English words are spelt in funny ways. So it's the Norwich City Football Club, and it was their Pride campaign from last year. Last year? 2 years ago? Jesus, actually, I'm not actually sure now.
It may have been 2 years ago. I don't even know what year we're in anymore.
I'm not even sure now. Last year.
It was last year. Okay.
So yeah, they were the ones that really sort of grabbed my attention, that I wanted to find out more about. And then it sort of made me wonder about all these, like, all these, some other phrases that we've heard, said, maybe used ourselves. We kind of just say them and we don't really know why. So, a classic. Does anyone know where the phrase "a friend of Dorothy"
I was gonna say that's probably the classic, because it's the one
is from?
It's the one I learned, like, when I was a teenager and I was first, like, interacting with especially older gay men. They would, like, joke and be like, I'm just a friend of Dorothy, da-da-da. And, like, at first, like, honestly...
Fucking hell, who's this Dorothy?
Honestly, at first I was like, it didn't take that long for me to figure it out, like, a few times. But, like, the first couple of times I was like, Dorothy? Like, do I know Dorothy? Should I know Dorothy? Is she the woman
on the Facebook?
Is she the woman to know? There was no Facebook when I was a teenager, my dear.
Why do you all know this Dorothy? Exactly. So Flinksy thinks it originates from the Wizard of Oz. Any advancement on that? Any ideas where that came from? Scarecrow was pretty femme. I don't know if I've seen it. I must have seen it.
The Wizard of Oz is just a bunch of gay archetypes.
Yeah?
Yeah, you got, like, the big bear who's afraid, the lion. You've got the, like, effeminate scarecrow who's also, like, a bit of a himbo. You've got the Iron Man who's, like, the bodybuilder who, like, has no heart. Like, yeah.
The guy in the closet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's most commonly attributed to The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz movie starring Judy Garland, who, I don't know much about Judy Garland, but I hear she was a gay icon herself.
Yeah, everyone loved, not everyone, but, like, she was like one of those, like, women who, like, sang and danced and all the white gays loved. And also, can I just say, like, what gay man doesn't need a female friend with a dog in a basket? Like, my whole life, I just wanted to be that woman with a dog in a purse.
Fair. Her and her daughter were both gay icons. Oh, okay, there we go.
Yes, Wibble, like, the before share.
Obviously, queer culture isn't fantastic, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do WHAQ with this expert here. But also my pop culture, like, references aren't fantastic either. So I don't really know much about Judy Garland. But yeah, it's thought to be because Dorothy was always so accepting of those who are different. Never as bad as Ben, that's true. She's married more gay men than I have. Liza Minnelli.
Flinksy, at one point that was, like, I don't want to say a goal of mine. It turned out that I was just into eggs. So, like, I was just with trans women before they realized they were trans or before they were talking about it. But, like, for a long time, I was like, I'm just going to marry gay men. That's, like, my lot in life is marrying gay men. What?
Just listening.
No, okay. You just gave me a look. Like, I thought maybe I'd insulted you as the next person I'm marrying.
I was just listening.
Okay.
Made it sound like there's a long list of us. The next person I'm marrying.
It's only the second time.
Yeah, so again, the thought being that Dorothy was accepting of those with differences, those who were different to her. But also, it's also believed. Others believe that it refers to Dorothy Parker, who was a humorist and critic. Who included some gay men in her famous social circle. Now, I had no idea who Dorothy Parker was at all, but apparently she was an American poet, writer, and critic, and I can never say this word. Satirist,
but it can be, like, it depends on the dialect, but I say satirist.
Based in New York, she was known for her wit, wisecracks, and her eye for 20th century urban foibles.
Yeah, I didn't know that one at all.
I have no idea who she is.
I only assumed it was, like, Wizard of Oz reference. And even then, I thought it was, like, you know, like, yay, Judy Garland, whatever. But, like, it never really... I don't want to say it never made sense to me. It made sense, but, like, I don't know. Why is it a friend of Dorothy if it's Judy Garland? But then I have to remind myself that it's because we were trying to, like, speak in half code.
And plus those shoes were cracking, right? They're pretty gay.
Yeah.
Dog in the basket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cute little pinafore.
Again, social circle full of stereotypes. Makes sense. So the next one was again, I was going to say, again, one that I found very interesting. I found them all interesting. Obviously, I wouldn't be talking about them otherwise. But does anyone know who might be referred to as, and where you might be referred to as, a bookseller?
I love this one.
Yeah, this one's cool. So you can't answer because you know.
Also, I'm not looking at Liz all the time. The cat is laying over here, and I keep checking her. She's fine so far. I'm just worried she's going to give birth.
UK book girl. Yeah, any ideas on a bookseller? Coming back, yeah.
UK Book Girl is the tribute band.
Yeah. So, a bookseller.
It's me.
It's me.
It's me.
What was it? What did I say? Who might be referred to? So
Yeah.
lesbians might be referred to as booksellers. And that might happen in Spain. So apparently in Francoist Spain, so between 1939 and 1975, women would ask each other if they were also a bookseller to try and identify whether they were sapphic, whether they were a woman that loved other women. With younger lesbians, started a trend where they would ask each other if they were comics, which is kind of cool as well. And I don't really know, I couldn't find anything as to where that switch happened or what differentiated between, like, booksellers and comics, whether it's just younger people like comics more than books. I don't know, but
yeah, like maybe by 1970 book selling is a bit dated, right? Like,
yeah. Are you so I don't know if it was because the source I read, it was in are you a comic, but I wonder if it's more are you into comics, perhaps would have been the question. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cute.
I'm a bookseller.
And appropriate for this one.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. Again, WHAQ shirts.
Are you a bookseller or just bookseller, or what do you think?
Maybe we should leave this for a Gen Z Ops meeting.
Let me see your back cover.
The
Do you have a bookmark?
Oh boy, we're going places, and I don't know if they're good ones.
Rude.
Yeah.
You stop telling everyone about our ops meetings. I'm very embarrassed.
Why are you embarrassed that we have ops meetings?
Well, at least we need to give it a less weirdo name.
Okay.
Anyway, are you a comic or a bookseller? I don't know what I would say if someone asked me that. Maybe. Partially. I sell some books.
I like books, but a DVD is fun too.
I'm fond of a book, but I don't sell them. I don't own a shop. I like a book, but I don't own a shop. I like big books, and I cannot lie, I love that.
It's just the best one. Like, it's the best one.
Yeah. So, are there any... So, this is a question for Gemma and for chat. We need to add audiobooks now. Do you listen to Audible? Is there...
That's how you check if you're a U-Haul lesbian. Would you like to share an Audible subscription?
We don't.
Yet.
Oh. Are there any phrases that we need to know about? Any phrases that you've heard and you want to tell us about? Are there anything you've been called and you were like, what the fuck? Maybe not that one. Maybe that's TOS. But yeah, that's about it from me. I just thought they were cool. I especially thought the bookseller one was cool. That was my favourite that we've spoken about. But yeah, I loved, as you might have been able to tell, I loved that Puff was onomatopoeic, supposedly.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any that I have like thought about or used. And I don't think there is, but I think like it's interesting to just what language is reclaimed and what isn't. So like yeah, no, Flinksy, for real. Like there is a particular F slur that is like a slur on Twitch that we can't use. But like queer in and of itself is like an interesting one, right? Where we have reclaimed it, but I think like because it's a good umbrella term, it works really well, whereas I feel like some of the ones you talked about today are like a bit more niche.
I think with something that is more specific, it has the opportunity to be more pointed and more spiteful. I also don't know the meaning of that.
The F slur.
The F slur. And didn't think to look it up because it wasn't going to be something that we would speak about, to be honest. There was some that I thought that were kind of obvious that you didn't know about, like you hadn't heard. So in the UK, again, it's clearly UK North American difference, but one that's, I hate saying like quite common, one that's known over back home is Batty Boy. And you'd never heard of that, had you?
No. Nope.
So, a batty boy is a homosexual man.
But there is so much more slang.
Generally more slang.
In the UK, right? And it's also regional, some of it, and some of it's not. And, like, even just, like, one of the things that's been interesting in our relationship is just, like, me learning all of this slang for genitals. Like, just these terms.
We just make them up.
Like, that I've never, like... I've just never heard these things before. So Flinksy says, when I was young, I prefer to be called queer as opposed to gay, but nowadays I think queer means something different. And yeah, I think that there's like, I agree completely, Flinksy, that I like have varied on what I've called myself, and for a while queer was it. But I do think like queer no longer, it's one of those like our fingers thumbs kind of thing where like yes, all thumbs are fingers but not all fingers are thumbs, and so it's not as specific as gay. Now it's interesting, Auto Mod just caught a message from Debs, and we'll allow it through, because Batty Boy was considered a slur, and I like, even a year ago, I don't think I'd heard that phrase and would have known what it meant.
So I was gonna say it, but I wasn't sure if I was fully correct or not, so I decided not to. But I was gonna say that Batty Boy is more predominantly used amongst black communities because I believed that it was a Caribbean term, which... And I think it's kind of taken like a very much like, it stems from like London culture and has spread from there. In the same way that like, and I hate using like, which is another topic, which is not one for this talk show, but I struggle a lot with like black terms. I struggle a lot with like not wanting to or using like AAVE. It's like the phrase wagwan, which is, you know, a term that's used in black communities in the UK that has become more widespread and lots of people use it, whether rightly or wrongly. So that's kind of like taken the same sort of route as Batty Boy, basically.
Did you want to translate that term?
So wagwan means what's going on. And I was going to say it stems from patois. I don't know if it stems from patois, so I just know that it's used by black folk. which is why I'm being very hesitant, because I don't know the origins completely, so I don't want people to take it as gospel.
But it's interesting too, like what Debs is saying in terms of like that language crossover, because we see it in other parts of like the queer community as well, where there's like, I don't want to say tension, because it's not always tension, but difference between like what slang has come up through different cultural lines, right? And so like one of the things I bang on about all the time is what drag culture has stolen from ballroom culture. And I say stolen because, yes, in some cases there's like a lot of overlap and it's, you know, used in both by the same people who are parts of both communities. But there is a lot of white people who use slang and talk about various things and have no idea that this came from Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And like young black trans women usually, to be honest. But like, and so there's this like interesting ways in which different things come through. And like Debs is saying, you know, this term being like from the Caribbean, like I think there's different languages per like move in different ways, right? Like they have different evolutions. But yeah, I think we see it a lot with like ballroom culture and people, like even when people are like things that just don't make sense in drag culture anymore. Like I'm trying to think of something, like, because I'm on the spot, I can't think of it, but there's just certain terms that are used in drag culture. And they like clearly come from ballroom competition and aren't relevant to drag culture in the same way. Like they've become divorced from their context. I'm trying to think of something like that though, but even we see it a little bit more, but you know, sometimes people when they're talking about like spins and dips and stuff like that, like that's not, like spins and dips are absolutely part of drag performance, but spins and dips is like a category of ballroom performance. Like it's like a whole
things like
it's
hair and hands and voguing and
yeah, so there's just like stuff that has like migrated basically.
Trying to think if there's any more UK specific. I can't really think of anything. Weird one is like that was used in schools. Lesbians would be called lemons. As just like a you're such a fucking lemon.
Was that a way of like insulting someone in a way that a teacher couldn't say you were using bad language? Is that what that was?
But I think it was pretty much like, it was like, well, no, not just specific to my school sort of thing. But yeah, it could be just.
But I mean, I grew up
a school-friendly slur.
I grew up in that like weird bubble of like gay being like, that's so gay was like a thing that people said to say that something was like not cool.
Bad, yeah.
And it was weird because there were gay people, and like even at the point where this was saying like some same-sex marriage was legalized, like it was this weird little bubble in the like late 90s, early 2000s culturally, and we like talk a lot about that when we're like, it was just this weird little bubble, but we're like gay was a slur.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. And it's interesting that it's again both sides of the pond.
Because
like how?
But I think part of what we sort of talk a lot about is when we talk about the differences in our language and stuff, is that way more of the culture from here, and actually what it is, because I'm Canadian, it's actually way more American culture, gets into Canada, and Canadian and American culture in terms of pop culture, language and stuff like that is often very entwangled, which is a term Liz and I like to use, is very entwangled.
She's taking the piss out of me.
I said it first. It was my mistake first. It's not you. If anyone's taking the piss out of anyone, I'm taking the piss out of myself. But I think that American culture got exported way more. And so you
100%.
ended up with like American slang, whereas like it didn't come the other way. So you were watching way more American TV than the average American was watching British TV.
Yeah.
So you were getting the American slang, and then there was no easy vehicle for the British slang or other European slang to like make its way back. So I think that was part of it, because you don't know Canadian slang either. Like, you don't know what a hoser is.
No.
But that's what I mean, right? Like, so I think we both imported American slang.
This just feels really wrong for me to be like, what about this slur?
Remember that there are some that we can't say.
Oh, what about fudge packer?
Oh, we use that one. That one's not a kind one.
Not a kind one?
No. I mean, it's not the F slur, but it's not a good one. I haven't seen anyone reclaim it.
Just like tears of slur. I think my observation is that it's kind of cute. Like, no.
But it was something like, I don't hear that said, like, no one's yelling, at least in my experience, no one's yelling that, like, as, like, a cat call from a, like, fully grown adult to another fully grown adult in, like, downtown Toronto.
Too many syllables.
Generally speaking, right? Like, it was, yes, exactly. It's Fawn, exactly what you're saying, where it was, like, it was a very, like, rooted in childhood kind of insult. I do want to go back quickly before we lose it to what Monty was saying, as, like, as someone who has English as not a first language, she's never sure what's slang and what isn't. And that's like, but to be honest, like, I actually remember, like, a million years ago when I taught at a university, I taught women's studies. And the number of people who handed in essays using slang terms without knowing they were slang terms, whether that be for body parts, whether that be for, and I was teaching first year women's studies, so it was like really broad, right? We did like pop culture stuff. We did like biological, based kind of stuff, discussion points. We did like all sorts of aspects of like whatever, what would now be called gender studies, like that sort of stuff. And it was broad. It was really broad. There was some literature, there's different stuff like that. And so I would get essays, they got to choose whatever they wanted for their main paper for the course. And I'd get essays across a bunch of topics, literature, science, pop culture. Pop culture was really popular with them, that sort of thing, where they just were using words without realizing, like, I actually had one student not realize that boobs was slang. And that, like, I didn't mark them down or anything. I just like was like, this is not the terminology you want to use in like a university paper in 2010. But I think that's true for lots of folks, depending on where you get your education. Like, I think there used to be, especially since schools have shifted a lot across the globe, it used to be like very strict language was taught at school. And that's how you knew you were studying Shakespeare or whatever, which is also all fucking slang, but we don't talk about that. You're studying that, and then everything else you talk about, like, it's all just in your own dialect, it's in your own, mixed language, like I grew up with, where it was half English, half French, and that sort of thing. And now, like, schooling has shifted, and pop culture and social media seeps in everywhere. I think it just creates a different language understanding.
But even, like, the type of school that you went to. Obviously, I don't know how the school system works over here, and it's not as common in the UK now, but like whether you went to a grammar school versus like a regular, I can't remember the proper term, just like a regular state school. So,
can you explain to me what those are?
Yeah, okay. So the types of language that you'd be taught in would be different. So, some places still do it in the UK. It's not nearly as common as it used to be. But you would get to a point where everyone would have the same, say everyone, you know what I mean, but everyone would have the same, like, primary education, and then you'd hit the age of 11, and you'd have to take an exam called the 11 plus. And your 11 plus would then determine what type of schooling you went on to. So you'd either, if you passed your 11 plus, you'd go on to a grammar school, so you'd get a better education. And if you didn't pass your 11 plus, you'd go to regular secondary school.
I know this isn't the point, but it's a little wild to me that if you pass an exam, you get better schooling than
Should be the other way around.
surely if you're failing the exam, you need better quality schooling to bring you up so that you can, like, achieve things. Like,
Yeah.
you know, anyway, I know that's not the
Level
point.
the playing field.
I know
yeah.
that's not the point, but, like, that's always wild to me.
Yeah. So even then, you know, the type the type of language that we used in the classroom would be really different, right? Are there any more? I can't think of any more.
Yes, JD, I agree. It's so much pressure at that age.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's pressure at any age, right? And I don't mean any age like adulthood. I mean, like, when I'm thinking about things like, you know, I did provincial exams at what was wild is because of the way the school years worked, you did your provincial exams in my province in grade 11, and then grade 12 was the final year of high school, and then you went on to university or college or not. You graduated and went on to further schooling or not. But your grade 11 exams, the end of it was that. And, like, it was this thing where you literally sat down and everyone in grade 11 wrote them across the same 3 days in the whole province of New Brunswick. It was a 4-hour exam. You did 1 day English, 1 day math, because those were the 2 skills you needed, apparently.
Yep.
Anyway. And we all wrote the same exam, and you may be doing, like, what was weird is that the French kids did an English exam too. Anyway, it was wild. New Brunswick made fascinating choices, but, like, at any point, even when I was writing my LSATs to go to law school, I was like, this is a lot of pressure, and you're paying a lot of money, and, like, this is... Anyway, it's wild. But I still don't really understand schooling in the UK in some ways. Just like you don't understand it here in some ways. Like, we were having the discussion about uniforms. And it's wild to me. I can't imagine ever sending my kid to a school that requires uniforms.
But uniforms are just wild anyway. Like, me walking around Walmart, like, I don't know who works here because no one's wearing a uniform. Like, I don't understand. We're just so conditioned to need uniforms in the UK to, like, understand what's going on.
Heaven for... Well, but I mean, like Fawn was joking about, like, Gemma, that requires equality, but this is the same thing, right? Like, you don't learn better if you're in... There are lots of arguments around why uniforms affect learning outcomes. I get it. But what I'm just saying is, like, you can just wear fucking clothes.
Yeah. I mean, we are wildly veering off the topic, but there are definitely pros and cons for uniform in school.
There's like...
And it's more so, like, economic
yeah.
reasons.
There's all these studies done in the province I'm in now, Monty, about whether uniforms affect learning outcomes. Because in my province, in Ontario, there is the public school system and the Catholic school system. And the great thing about this is that they're both entirely 100% public funded. And the Catholic school system has, like, I don't know how else to put it, but, like, Catholic schoolgirl uniforms. Like, it's, like, full-on, like, little plaid skirts. And depending on what social circle you hang out in, how many inches above the knee it is determined by that. And ties and, like, polos and the whole thing. And public school wear no uniform. And that's the case from, like kindergarten when you're 5. Actually, here it's junior kindergarten when you're 4. All the way up to grade 12 when you're 18-ish. And so, yeah. So it's, like, very publicly funded. Which is wild. Anyway, coming from a province that doesn't do that, when I moved to Ontario, I was like, what are you people doing with your public money that you have a whole Catholic school system? Anyway, not comments for here. But yes, Fawn, like, if you grow up in it, like, because I came to a university in Ontario, and I was one of the few out-of-province students, like, in my little friend group, because it was, like, a lot of Ontario kids. It was the year before the double cohort and all of that stuff, which will make sense to Fawn and no one else. And I was just like, what do you mean Catholic school? Like, I was so ill-prepared to go to school in Ontario. And people would be like, yeah, you know, I went to Catholic school, but I got out of the religion classes because we wrote this whole thing to the district about how it was the closest school, so it was easier, but then I didn't have to go to religion classes, because in Catholic school, you still had to do religion classes. You know, it's publicly funded. You, like, attended a particular church. There was, like, a particular diocese you were attached to. Wild. Anyway. They have uniforms. And there's all this argument about whether uniforms affect learning outcomes. Because you're not distracted by someone wearing a Nike shirt.
Yeah. But like I say, I've got thoughts and feelings that are not related. But I'm happy to talk about it whenever, really.
Yeah, fun. And, like, and regular in-school mass, the whole thing. And, like, the kids who go to Catholic school end up, like, coming home with the ash on their forehead on Ash Wednesday and everything, right?
Like, it's just, I don't know, that...
I love how, like, people in the comments have feelings about their, like, uniform and what they were wearing when they were kids and, like, that. Yeah. I never experienced uniforms, and it wasn't something, like, for me, uniforms were rich.
Yeah, that's
only the rich
wild
kids.
To me. Like, everyone's in a uniform. Thankfully, I went to a school where the girls didn't have to wear skirts, otherwise there would have been problems. But it's just like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of kids get bullied for not having the correct uniform because they were too poor to buy the correct uniform, or they were the kid that had to turn up to school in their uniform on a non-school uniform day because they didn't have any clean clothes, or their clothes weren't good enough that they would just get bullied and
I guess
stuff.
if you spend all your money on, like, I'm thinking of back to school shopping, right? And if you spend all of your money on, like, if the family has to spend all of their money on uniforms, they probably don't have money to also then buy good enough quality clothes for a Friday where you get to wear your civvies or whatever you call them.
And it's like even worse now because all the schools you have to buy specific clothing from a specific store, and you can't sew the school badge on a generic non-brand name top because the school needs money because they're also underfunded, and
it's a whole system.
Cycle,
it's a whole system.
Yeah. But anyway, we are completely
off topic. But
off topic.
Just like like I totally hear the, like, you know, uniform. Like, even here, there's a few academies, like Montessori's one of them. There's also, like, a couple Christian schools. And then nearby, and because I'm moving, I'm always playing a little bit looser with where I live now because I've always hidden the exact details. But nearish by, let's say, there's an academy that is, like, so rich. It is where, like, Prince Andrew went to school and Prince Charles went to school, now King Charles, and Harry did time at it as well. But, like, Andrew went there for, like, a full, like, 5 years or something. And all of their, like, promotional stuff is just, like, these pristine, perfect uniforms in a tartan that I don't know, like, I don't even know where this tartan came from, right? But that's one of the wild things with the plaid everywhere is, like, just, you're just wearing random people's tartans? Like, I don't even know how they choose these things.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So, like, I only associate uniform with, like, the rich. Hi, John. Yeah, and we definitely didn't have that. But it's actually one of the things that's so, like, cute about, like, Heartstopper, to bring it back to, like, queer stuff, is that, like, they're all in school uniform. And so for a lot of us in North America, that adds to the, like, little preppy.
Aww,
yeah,
so cute.
So it's so twee. Because we definitely don't have uniform now. I mean, like I said, Catholic, but generally speaking, don't have uniform.
Whereas the rest of the world are like, uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's even one of the things that's, like, wild when we see pictures.
Great segue from me. Bring it back to you.
Is seeing, like, how uniform works in other schools, and even, like, like, again, to bring it to queerness, like, how much something like uniform is often gendered and how much of a challenge that makes navigating some stuff around gender identity. Mm-hmm. Especially since, like, even though we didn't have uniform, we had different rules for the girls and the boys. So when I was a kid, the boys couldn't wear skirts. The boys couldn't wear skirts. And we didn't have uniform, but, like, that was, boys had to be in pants. I, although recently learned that in school uniform in the UK, the little boys wear shorts and the older boys wear pants. Trousers. Wild. And then, like, we had rules around girls showing their shoulders. So the boys could, like, literally take their tops off for gym class. And we weren't allowed to show our shoulders as girls.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, the girls, like, primary school, junior school age girls would wear, like...
What we would call elementary.
Thank you. Would wear, like, little checkered dresses, and the boys would have to be in shirts and shorts. And then as you got older, that would be like shirts and skirts and shirts and trousers. Mm-hmm. A lot of that has changed now. Lots of it is like polo tops and trousers and whatever. But although talking of about gender and I guess it's, I don't know, like a feminist thing in the news, which happens very, like, every few years and makes me very, very happy whenever I read it in the news, is boys in mixed gendered schools wearing skirts because the teachers keep pissing off the girls. I love that. So there was one recently where girls are being sent to a different section of the playground and being inspected, and, like, your skirt's too high, too short, and whatever else, and the boys protesting by coming to school in skirts and breaking their uniform code, and it always makes me very, very happy when I see it in the news. There's been an instance of that in this week from a UK school, so good for them.
Fawn and I because Fawn and I are, like, both Canadian and, like, are similar-ish ages, like, of the same range. It's very much like we had very similar kind of school experiences, and that was it, right? Like, spaghetti straps were, like, nearly prostitution, according to my grade 6 teacher. Like, that Venn diagram was a circle.
That's so wild to me, because it's like, girls weren't allowed to wear nail polish, and you had to have your tie a certain length. We didn't even have, like, the opportunity to wear a spaghetti strap. It's just strange. Yep. Strange.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, yeah. We are far away from where we started, but good conversation anyway. And I do think that, like, it's interesting the way these things all are connected, right? Around gender norms. And it's one of the reasons why, and we can say this now, it's one of the reasons why trans rights are so vital to the overall, like, queer community, because I understand that there are segments of our community that view trans issues as separate from the rest of the umbrella, and they are not. Issues around sexuality and gender expression and gender identity are intricately connected, even for those of us who are cis. Because I still, like, as a femme cis woman, I still talk about gender presentation, and all of these things are really, really entwangled. And it is incredibly important that we continue to talk about these things, because it is patriarchy and heteronormativity are absolutely linked.
Yep.
Homophobia and misogyny are absolutely linked. And we cannot start deciding, and that's why TERFs are actually not feminists, right? And not just because, like, feminism isn't feminism unless it includes transness. That's not what I mean. I mean, that's true. But that, like, it's actually about policing femininity.
Yeah.
And it's actually about...
intersectionality is so important all the time.
Yep. And so I think, like, even in this discussion, whether we're talking about sea queens and who plays the femme role and who plays the mask role, or we're talking about women being able to go off live into the city, and that's why there's, you know, an explosion of lesbian culture, whatever it is, What we are talking about is how a group, whether that be the Catholic Church with school uniform or anything else, is policing bodies, and how that impacts us as queer people in particular, because they are policing us to not be ourselves. And that is queer people of all sorts. That includes gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender. There is no LGB without the T.
100%.
And I have a visa now,
100%.
so I can say it.
Yeah, so to add a little bit of context, we have been quiet in light of recent news, not because we didn't want to say anything, but because we've had to be very, very careful of saying anything on social media which could sound like we were disagreeing with the people who have our lives in their hands.
Yeah. And so we were being very careful to not at all sound treasonous, which, to be clear, I do not believe it is treason to stick up for your fellow citizens. But we were very careful with some of the gender ID stuff that was happening in Scotland, etc., etc. We made a decision that we couldn't say anything about it at that moment because it was exactly the time that they were looking at our social media. I have my visa now, and I can't wait to go defend trans rights in the UK. In fact, I was talking to someone else about it. If you watched, you may not have seen in the Discord, but if you watched our episode about immigration, the trans couple that I was talking about got their visa as well, and we were talking about going to protest together to defend trans rights in the UK.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And you got a chauffeur and everything.
Yeah, well, and wife, like not just chauffeur, also wife and partner in progress. So yeah, those things are related, and we here at WHAQ are firmly pro-trans rights and love trans people.
Queer do protests.
Yes, new shirt. But yeah, it's all related, right?
Someone in chat writing these down.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Mm-hmm. And in 2 weeks, we will be talking, it's my episode, and I think I'm going to do one on compet, which is especially interesting coming from a lesbian perspective, because it's something that I think I'm going to combine it a little bit with talking about later life lesbians, and how there's like this whole group of folks, group of women who are discovering that they are either queer and didn't know it, or lesbian, more specifically, and didn't know it. And it has to do with the ways we are conditioned to ignore ourselves and our own feelings on life, and not even question whether we're actually attracted to people, etc., because there's a path. And so I'm going to talk about that.
Potentially the removal of birth control.
So yeah. So that's in 2 weeks. And at that point, Liz will be back in the UK, but we only have 3 episodes until we're living together. Like, for real. Which also, I know that lots of you know this, like, personally, on a personal level, because you know me. But, like, can I just say that when I become an official resident of the UK on April 26th, that's the date that I'm officially a resident, it will be the first time that I have shared an address with a partner in my entire life. And I am going to be 39 in June. So thank goodness that Liz is willing to take that on, because, oh boy, I have lived alone for a very long time. And that's it.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Yeah.
Cool. So, should we see who's online?
Yeah, I have no idea who's streaming right now.
I'm very stiff.
Like a good type of stiff?
No, a terrible type of stiff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Terrible. Oh, look, now we're in the same room. You can point to someone that you fancy saying hello to.
I'm happy with any of those options.
I was asking who you were pointing to.
No, I'm happy with any of those options. You do.
Also, we can't see chat, so... Part of me wants to raid someone who understands how geek caring works.
But part of the problem is that we don't... It's a challenge.
Flinksy, thank you.
Thank you, Flinksy.
So kind. No riots. Oh God.
Yeah, Monty, I think it's just going to have to be like a learning curve into how we express to people that it's not Monty and Amanda rating them when it's us, and it's not you rating when it's Crowded Tavern. And...
There is a command for it somewhere, right?
Yeah. But did want to give a shout out to other shows. So Geek Herring has actually canceled their episode for tomorrow, but usually Geek Herring is on Tuesdays, 10 our time. So here near Toronto, and that would be 3 p.m. GMT. And then the Crowded Tavern is every other Wednesday, not this Wednesday coming, but next week. And they are at 4:30 UK time, every other Wednesday, and you can check them out through socials and stuff like that. So that's Geek Herring and the Crowded Tavern, and lots of folks from the Crowded Tavern hang out here too.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry it was a short and sweet one. I will try and do more research. I'm on a journey right now to be less shy and more talkative, which if you watch my regular streams, you might not believe that I'm shy and not talkative, but I struggle. So thank you for sticking around. We're going to raid Nicholas. Moni has rather kindly put the command in. Oh, thank you, Moni. I feel like there was a command that was like, "Hi, this is a Geek Herring show." Mate, Gemma's at the keyboard. We're gonna do some good typing when we go see Nicholas.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know either. Maybe we'll make one up at some point.
Yeah,
I'll
something
add
to
it to
talk
the
about in GHP.
Never-ending to-do list.
It really is.
Yeah, Nicholas does.
Nicholas does know. Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out. We love you. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for being here. See you soon. Chat to you on the Discord. Check out the Tumblr. Check out the Twitter. Episode 5 is in 2 weeks. All about compet? Did you say? Compet. And later life lesbianism. Goodbye.
Bye.